In a small forgotten town, nestled between rolling hills, lived a young girl named Alara. Her clothes were patched, her shoes were worn, and her stomach often rumbled with hunger. But despite her poverty, Alara had a heart richer than any king's treasure. Her kindness was a quiet melody in a world that had forgotten how to sing. One biting winter afternoon, as a fierce wind howled through the narrow streets, Alara was gathering fallen twigs for her small fireplace. Her fingers were numb, and the cold gnawed at her. But she knew even a small fire would make a world of difference. As she turned a corner, she saw a figure huddled against a stone wall. It was an old woman, her face etched with lines of hardship, her body trembling uncontrollably from the cold. The woman's coat was thin and tattered, offering little protection against the relentless wind. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing was shallow. People hurried past, their faces buried in their scarves, either not noticing or choosing to ignore her plight. But Alara couldn't. She saw not a stranger, but a reflection of her own struggle, a person in desperate need of warmth. Without a second thought, Alara dropped her precious bundle of twigs. She ran to the old woman and gently shook her shoulder. "Ma'am, are you all right?" she asked, her voice soft with concern. The woman's eyes fluttered open, revealing a gaze clouded with exhaustion. She tried to speak, but only a weak whisper escaped her lips. Alara knew she couldn't leave her here. With all her strength, she helped the woman to her feet, wrapping her own thin shawl around the woman's frail shoulders. "Come with me," Alara said. "It's not much, but my home is warm." Slowly they made their way to Alara's tiny cottage at the edge of town. It was just one room, simple and bare, but the moment they stepped inside, the faint warmth from the embers in the hearth felt like a welcoming embrace. Alara settled the woman into her only chair, the one closest to the fire. She then used the last of her kindling to coax the embers back to life, the flames dancing and casting a gentle glow across the room. She brewed a simple herbal tea, the only thing she had to offer, and gave the steaming mug to the woman. The woman sipped it slowly, the warmth spreading through her, and color began to return to her cheeks. For the next few days, Alara cared for the old woman, whose name she learned was Seraphina. She shared her meager meals, gave Seraphina her own bed, while she slept on a pile of sacks by the fire, and told her stories to pass the time. Alara never once asked who Seraphina was or where she came from. She simply gave, expecting nothing in return. On the third day, Seraphina announced she was feeling strong enough to leave. Alara felt a pang of sadness, but helped her get ready, packing a small piece of bread for her journey. As they stood at the doorway, Seraphina turned to Alara, her eyes clear and sharp. "You have a pure heart, child," she said, her voice now strong and steady. "You shared everything you had with a stranger, without question." Before Alara could reply, a sleek black car, unlike anything ever seen in their town, pulled up to the cottage. A well-dressed man stepped out and opened the door for Seraphina, addressing her as Madame Beaumont. Alara watched in stunned silence. Seraphina smiled. "I am not the poor wanderer you thought I was, Alara. My car broke down a few miles away, and I decided to see what kind of people lived in this town." She was Seraphina Beaumont, a reclusive billionaire known for her vast fortune and her even vaster, hidden acts of philanthropy. She had been testing the kindness of the world, and in a poor, forgotten girl, she had found it in its purest form. From that day on, Alara's life changed forever. Madame Beaumont didn't just give her money, she gave her an education, a beautiful new home for her and her family, and the means to help her entire town. A new school was built, the old roads were paved, and businesses began to thrive. Alara, however, remained the same kind, humble girl. She used her newfound fortune to start a foundation ensuring no one in her town would ever suffer from cold or hunger again. Her story became a local legend, a reminder that true wealth isn't measured by what you have, but by what you are willing to give. And it all started with a simple act of kindness on a cold winter's day. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales that warm the heart. See you next time.